Captain Alex Thorne was cleaning his plasma rifle in the armory when the klaxon announcing royal presence echoed through Station Kepler Prime's corridors. He'd been expecting another routine diplomatic visit, perhaps some minor Cathara official coming to inspect their joint training facilities. What he hadn't expected was for Princess Zaralyn herself to stride into the combat training bay like she owned the entire sector. Her 7-foot frame crackling with barely contained energy and her bioluminescent tattoos, pulsing that particular shade of purple that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. "Human soldiers," she announced, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made human bones resonate in sympathetic vibration. "Your species claims to be worthy allies in the coming war against the Void Swarm. I have come to test this claim." Alex exchanged glances with Sergeant Murphy, who was doing his best impression of someone who'd rather be literally anywhere else in the galaxy. The princess's reputation preceded her. 7 feet of purple-skinned warrior perfection, who'd personally held off an entire Void Swarm scouting fleet, while her people evacuated 3 colony worlds. She moved like liquid mercury given form and purpose, and when she looked directly at someone, it felt like being evaluated by a particularly elegant predator. "Your Highness," Lieutenant Sanders ventured from the relative safety of the equipment lockers, "we're honored by your visit, but our training protocols aren't really designed for—" "You," Princess Zaralyn interrupted, pointing one long, clawed finger directly at Alex. "You have the stance of a warrior, not a parade ground soldier. Will you accept my challenge, or shall I assume that human bravery exists only in your propaganda broadcasts?" Alex felt every pair of eyes in the training bay focus on him with the intensity of targeting lasers. The smart play would be to politely decline, cite diplomatic protocols, and let someone with more rank and better insurance handle the situation. Instead, he found himself standing and meeting the princess's amber gaze with what he hoped looked like confidence, rather than the early stages of a panic attack. "What kind of challenge are we talking about, Your Highness? Because if it involves eating live insects or composing poetry about the cosmic significance of warfare, I should probably mention that I'm terrible at both." The princess's bioluminescent markings flickered in what Alex had learned to recognize as either amusement or the prelude to spectacular violence. "Combat human, single combat by the traditions of my people. If you prove worthy, your species gains honor and respect. If you do not—" She smiled, revealing teeth that were definitely designed for more than just looking intimidating. "Well, perhaps you will at least provide entertainment." Alex nodded toward the weapons rack, trying to project more confidence than he felt. "Any particular rules I should know about? Special techniques I should avoid? Ancient taboos involving the improper handling of energy weapons?" "The rules are simple," Zaralyn said, selecting a curved blade that seemed to hum with its own internal energy. "We fight until one yields, becomes incapacitated, or dies. Though I suppose for diplomatic purposes, we should avoid the third option." "Generous of you." Alex chose his preferred combat knife and activated his armor's defensive systems. "Just out of curiosity, what's your win-loss record in these formal challenges?" "I have never lost." "Of course you haven't." Alex moved to the center of the training mat, trying not to think about the fact that he was about to engage in ritual combat with an alien warrior princess, whose idea of a light workout probably involved bench-pressing small asteroids. "Any chance we could settle this with a friendly game of chess instead?" Princess Zaralyn's laugh was like crystal chimes in a windstorm. "Your humor is unexpected. Most warriors I face spend their final moments pleading or posturing. You make jokes. It's a defense mechanism. My therapist says it's either endearing or deeply problematic, depending on the context." The formal challenge began with the traditional Cathara greeting, a complex series of movements that supposedly honored one's opponent, while simultaneously demonstrating 17 different ways to kill them if they proved unworthy. Alex attempted to reciprocate with humanity's pre-combat ritual, which mainly involved cracking his knuckles and muttering a brief prayer to whatever deity handled combat between species. Princess Zaralyn moved first, her blade weaving patterns in the air that seemed to bend light around its edge. Alex barely managed to deflect the initial strike, the impact sending shockwaves through his reinforced gauntlets. She fought like liquid lightning given form, each attack flowing seamlessly into the next with a grace that made human combat techniques look like interpretive dance performed by intoxicated robots. "You're stronger than expected," the princess admitted as Alex managed to land a glancing blow against her armor. "Most humans I've observed rely too heavily on their technology. You fight with instinct as well as training." "Thanks, I think." Alex ducked under a strike that would have removed his head from his shoulders with surgical precision. "You're not bad yourself, though I have to say, your people's idea of formal combat is significantly more lethal than ours." The battle continued for 20 minutes, neither gaining a decisive advantage. Alex's tactical training warred with his growing appreciation for the princess's skill, while she seemed genuinely impressed by his ability to adapt to her unconventional fighting style. Their movements became a deadly dance, each testing the other's limits while maintaining enough control to avoid accidentally triggering an interstellar incident. Then Princess Zaralyn's energy blade found a weakness in Alex's armor plating, the composite material cracking along his chest and revealing the pale scar tissue beneath. The jagged mark ran diagonally across his torso, a memento from his first encounter with Cathara technology during the Border Wars, when a plasma blast that should have killed him had instead left him with this permanent reminder of mortality. The moment the scar became visible, Princess Zaralyn froze mid-strike, her weapon falling from suddenly nerveless fingers. Her amber eyes widened to pools of liquid gold, and her bioluminescent markings flared to brilliant intensity that made the training bay's lighting seem dim by comparison. Alex, confused by her sudden stillness, also stopped his defensive movements. "Your Highness, is something wrong?" The princess stared at his exposed scar with an expression that combined terror, awe, and something that might have been recognition. Around them, the training bay fell silent as every witness sensed the shift in atmosphere, the air itself seeming to thicken with significance none of them could name. "The mark of the bonded," Princess Zaralyn whispered, her voice barely audible. "The prophecies. They spoke of one who would bear the scar of our people's fire, who would stand between worlds when the darkness comes." Alex touched the mark self-consciously, memories of the day he'd received it flooding back. The Cathara plasma blade that had cut him down during the battle for New Geneva, the field medic who'd somehow kept him alive long enough for evacuation, the months of recovery during which he'd wondered if the scar would fade or remain as a permanent reminder of how close death could come. "I don't understand," Alex said, though a cold certainty was beginning to form in his stomach. "It's just a scar, battle damage from the war." "Not just a scar." The princess's hands trembled as she reached toward him, stopping just short of touching the mark. "The bonded warrior, marked by our fire but not consumed, destined to stand with the chosen of our people when the void swarm threatens all life." The other Cathara soldiers in the training bay had dropped to one knee in what appeared to be reverence, while the human contingent looked on with expressions ranging from confusion to growing alarm. Alex felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders like a familiar but unwelcome burden. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "I think we need to talk." Princess Zaralyn nodded, her warrior composure gradually reasserting itself, even as her markings continued to pulse with patterns Alex had never seen before. "Yes, we have much to discuss, Alex Thorne. The prophecies have waited 1,000 years for this moment, and now that it has come, both our peoples must prepare for what lies ahead." As the implications of her words sank in, Alex realized that what had begun as a simple challenge to prove human worth had become something far more significant. The scar that had marked him as a survivor was apparently a sign of cosmic destiny, and the alien princess who challenged him was someone with whom his fate was now inextricably intertwined. The training bay buzzed with nervous energy as word of the revelation spread through the station's communication networks. Within hours, Elder Kethvar had arrived with a full complement of Kithara theologians and historians, their instruments humming with quantum energy as they examined Alex's scar, with the reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. The bonded warrior, the ancient Kithara intoned, his voice carrying harmonics that made the station's hull plates vibrate in sympathy. Marked by our fire but not consumed, destined to unite with the chosen princess when the ancient enemy stirs once more. Alex sat in the station's briefing room, trying to process the fact that his worst battlefield injury had somehow made him the centerpiece of an interstellar prophecy. Across from him, Princess Zaralyn maintained her warrior composure, but he could see the uncertainty in her amber eyes as she struggled with revelations that challenged everything she'd believed about duty, destiny, and the nature of their species' relationship. According to our oldest records, Elder Kethvar continued, the bonded warrior and the chosen princess are meant to unite their people's strengths in the final battle against the Void Swarm. The connection between them transcends mere political alliance. It is a joining of souls that has been prophesied since before your species achieved spaceflight. And you're certain this is that prophecy? Alex asked, gesturing toward his scar. Not just a case of cosmic coincidence and wishful thinking. The mark is unmistakable, another elder replied, her bioluminescent patterns cycling through what Alex was learning to recognize as extreme excitement. Shaped by Kithara energy weapons but healed by human physiology, creating a unique quantum signature that resonates with the Chosen's life force. Princess Zaralyn leaned forward, her voice carrying new undertones of uncertainty. I can feel it, she said quietly. When I look upon your mark, something awakens in my consciousness. Your thoughts touch the edges of my mind, and your presence calls to something ancient in my blood. Alex nodded slowly, beginning to understand why the last few hours had felt different, more vivid somehow. I've been sensing emotions that aren't mine, flashes of memory from a perspective that's definitely not human. Is that normal for whatever this bond is supposed to be? The bonding process varies, Elder Kethvar explained, but it typically begins with shared consciousness, thoughts, emotions, and memories bleeding between the paired individuals. As the connection strengthens, it can evolve into perfect synchronization of mind and body, allowing the bonded pair to fight as a single entity. Fight as a single entity, Alex repeated, against the Void Swarm. The ancient enemy stirs once more, Princess Zaralyn said, her warrior instincts focusing on the tactical implications. Long-range sensors have detected movement in the dark spaces between stars, mechanical signatures consistent with swarm scout forces. They have been dormant for millennia, but something has awakened them. Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's environmental systems. How long do we have? Unknown, the princess replied. But if the prophecies are accurate, the emergence of the bonded warrior marks the beginning of the final phase. The swarm will move to eliminate the threat before it can fully manifest. The briefing continued for hours as more details of the ancient prophecy emerged, painting a picture of cosmic destiny that neither Alex nor Zaralyn had asked for but could not deny. The scar that had once been simply a reminder of survival had become the mark of something greater, and the challenge that should have been a routine demonstration of human capability had revealed a connection that would reshape the fate of both civilizations. As the formal meetings concluded, and the various officials dispersed to handle the diplomatic implications, Alex found himself alone with Princess Zaralyn in the station's observation lounge. Through the transparisteel viewport, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, indifferent to the cosmic drama unfolding among the tiny specks of life that dared to call them home. This isn't what I expected when I woke up this morning, Alex said, settling into one of the human-scaled chairs. I was planning to clean my equipment, review tactical reports, maybe catch up on some sleep. Instead, I've apparently become part of an ancient prophecy involving alien princesses and cosmic threats. Zaralin's bioluminescent markings pulsed with what Alex was beginning to recognize as her equivalent of a rueful smile. Nor did I expect to find my prophesied partner among our former enemies. The universe, it seems, has a sense of humor. A pretty twisted one, if you ask me. Alex studied her profile as she gazed out at the stars. So what happens now? Do we start training together? Plan strategy for fighting an enemy that nearly exterminated all organic life the last time they were active. Figure out how this whole bonded consciousness thing works. All of that, the princess replied. But first, we must learn to trust each other. The bond cannot reach its full potential if we remain strangers connected only by prophecy and cosmic accident. Alex considered this, feeling the truth of her words resonate through the connection that was slowly forming between them. Well, Your Highness, I suppose we should start with the basics. I'm Alex Thorne, born on Earth, raised on Mars, career soldier with a talent for finding trouble, and an apparently cosmic destiny I never asked for. I enjoy terrible coffee, ancient Earth music, and the occasional philosophical debate about whether the universe is fundamentally absurd or just pretending to be. Princess Zaralin turned to face him fully, her amber eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the viewport. I am Zaralin, heir to the crystal throne of Kith, trained in the warrior traditions of my people, burdened with duties I never chose but cannot abandon. I find strength in the harmony of combat, peace in the music of my homeworld's crystal formations, and uncertainty in a future that I must face with someone I am only beginning to know. Well, Alex said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting, it's nice to meet you, Zaralin. I look forward to figuring out how to save the galaxy with you. She took his hand in both of hers, her skin warm despite its alien hue, her touch sending ripples of sensation through the growing bond between them. And you, Alex Thorne. Perhaps destiny has chosen well, even if its methods are unconventional. The weeks that followed transformed Station Kepler, Prime into something resembling organized chaos, as human and Cathara specialists worked to understand and prepare for the implications of the fulfilled prophecy. Training sessions became joint affairs, as Alex and Zaralin learned to fight as a bonded pair, their movements gradually synchronizing through the psychic connection that grew stronger each day. Your left side is still too exposed, Zaralin noted as they concluded another sparring session. The bond should allow you to sense attacks from that angle through my awareness. I'm still getting used to having someone else's reflexes in my head, Alex replied, toweling off the sweat that had accumulated despite the training bay's environmental controls. Yesterday I tried to scratch my nose and ended up performing what I think was a traditional Cathara greeting to Lieutenant Martinez. He looked confused. The princess's markings flickered with amusement. The cultural bleed-through is normal during the early stages of bonding. You may find yourself craving fermented kelp wine or feeling inexplicably compelled to compose victory songs in harmonic scales. Please tell me you're joking about the kelp wine. Only partially, though I must admit I have developed an unexpected appreciation for your human beverage called coffee. The addiction potential is remarkable. Their training continued, but it was more than just learning to fight together. The bond was teaching them about each other in ways that went beyond shared combat techniques. Alex began to understand the weight of royal responsibility that Zaralin carried, the expectations that had shaped her from childhood into a weapon aimed at her people's enemies. In return, she experienced his memories of growing up on the frontier worlds, the casual freedom that humans took for granted, and the stubborn optimism that kept his species reaching for the stars despite all evidence that the universe was actively trying to kill them. Your people, she said one evening as they reviewed tactical analysis. The first confirmed void swarm contact came 6 weeks after the bonding began, when a deep space monitoring station detected mechanical signatures moving through the Helix Nebula. The ancient enemy had awakened, and their scout forces were already probing the outer reaches of inhabited space with the methodical patience of entities that measured time in geological epochs. Alex and Zarelin stood on the bridge of the Joint Task Force flagship Unity's Promise, watching the tactical displays that showed swarm movements across a dozen star systems. The enemy's patterns were predictable in their thoroughness. They would systematically catalog every inhabited world, every military installation, every potential source of resistance before beginning their cleansing protocols. First contact in 72 hours, Admiral Hassan announced to the assembled commanders. Long-range sensors show a single swarm harvester moving toward the research station on Kepler 438b. Intelligence estimates suggest it's a reconnaissance probe, but we can't afford to let it report back to the main fleet. Alex felt the familiar pre-combat tension settling into his muscles, but this time it was accompanied by something else. Zarelin's battle calm flowing through their bond, steadying his nerves and focusing his thoughts with alien precision. When he turned to look at her, he saw his own determination reflected in her amber eyes. "The prophecy's moment arrives," she said quietly. "Are you ready, my bonded?" Alex checked his equipment one final time, feeling the weight of destiny and terrible responsibility settling on his shoulders like familiar armor. As ready as anyone can be to fight cosmic horror with improvised tactics and an alien princess. Let's go save the galaxy. The mission briefing was straightforward in the way that all doomed military operations appeared simple on paper. Alex and Zarelin would infiltrate the research station, gather intelligence on swarm capabilities, and if possible, destroy the harvester before it could transmit its findings back to the main fleet. The fact that no one had successfully fought the void swarm in over a millennium was mentioned only in passing, as if it were a minor tactical consideration, rather than an indication that they were all probably going to die horribly. "The bond between you has reached approximately 60% integration," Dr. Vance reported as she completed their pre-mission medical evaluation. "You should experience near-perfect coordination in combat situations, shared sensory input, and intuitive understanding of each other's tactical decisions. However, the psychological strain of such deep mental connection can be significant." "Define significant," Alex asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "Complete loss of individual identity, permanent merger of consciousness, or catastrophic psychotic break. The usual risks associated with experimental xenopsychology." "Wonderful," Alex exchanged glances with Zarelin. "Any chance we could just send a strongly worded diplomatic message instead?" Princess Zarelin's markings cycled through patterns that Alex now recognized as her version of grim humor. "I believe the Void Swarm's response to diplomacy involves converting all organic matter into raw materials for their construction projects. Perhaps we should stick with the original plan." The infiltration went smoothly until everything went wrong at once. The research station was already partially converted by the time they arrived, its human architecture twisted into the biomechanical configurations favored by swarm technology. Worse, the harvester wasn't alone. It had been joined by 2 escort units whose purpose appeared to be ensuring that no organic life escaped their cleansing protocols. Alex and Zarelin moved through the corrupted station with the perfect synchronization that their bond provided, each knowing instinctively where the other would be and what they would do next. When Alex ducked under a grasping mechanical tentacle, Zarelin was already there with her energy blade, severing the appendage before it could adapt to their tactics. When she leaped over a chasm of twisted metal, Alex provided covering fire that kept the pursuing drones at bay. "The central core," Zarelin said as they reached the station's main research facility, her voice carrying both her own determination and his tactical analysis. If we can overload the power systems, the resulting explosion should take out all three harvesters. And us with them, Alex pointed out, though he was already moving toward the control systems. The prophecy does not specify that the bonded must survive their destiny. Alex paused in his work on the overload sequence, meeting her gaze across the humming machinery. Maybe not, but I'd prefer to live long enough to see how this all turns out. Call it professional curiosity. The overload sequence activated just as the first swarm drones breached their defensive perimeter. Alex and Zarelyn fought their way to the emergency escape pods with seconds to spare, their bond allowing them to move as a single organism despite the chaos around them. As their pod jettisoned from the station, they watched through the viewport as the research facility became a brief star, its destruction taking the three harvesters with it in a cascade of quantum fire. First victory, Zarelyn said as they drifted in space awaiting pickup, though I suspect it will not be the last battle we face. Alex monitored their life support systems, while feeling the satisfaction of successful mission completion flow through their shared consciousness. At least we proved the bond works under combat conditions. Though I have to say, having someone else's battle reflexes in my head is going to take some getting used to. As will having someone else's tendency toward improvised solutions in mine, the princess replied. Your approach to tactical problems is unique. You mean stupid but effective. I mean creative in ways that confuse enemies who expect logical behavior. The rescue ship arrived 12 hours later, and by the time they returned to Station Kepler Prime, long-range sensors had detected the first signs of the main swarm fleet beginning to move. The ancient enemy was stirring in response to the destruction of their scouts, and the real war was about to begin. Alex and Zarelyn stood once again in the observation lounge, watching the stars and contemplating a future that seemed both more certain and more terrifying than it had been just months ago. The bond between them had deepened through shared combat, but more than that, they had begun to understand each other as individuals rather than just components of a prophetic pairing. Do you ever regret it? Alex asked as they prepared for sleep in their shared quarters. The bond, the prophecy, finding out that your destiny was tied to a human soldier with a talent for creative destruction. Zarelyn smiled, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with the warm patterns he'd learned indicated deep contentment. Regret finding someone who makes me laugh even as we face cosmic annihilation. Regret discovering that destiny can include terrible jokes and improvised tactics that somehow work despite violating every principle of sound military strategy. No, Alex Thorne, I do not regret it. She moved closer, her hand finding his across the small space between their sleeping alcoves. The prophecy spoke of a bonded warrior and a chosen princess, but it said nothing about friendship or trust, or the way your memories of home make me understand why humans fight so fiercely for things they love. It said nothing about how it would feel to have someone understand my thoughts before I speak them, or how comforting it is to know that I no longer face the darkness alone. Alex squeezed her hand gently, feeling the truth of her words resonate through their shared consciousness. When I got this scar, he said, touching the mark that had changed everything, I thought it was just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong end of a plasma blade. I never imagined it would lead to this. Perhaps that is the nature of destiny, Zarelyn replied softly. It arrives not as we expect it, but as we need it. Disguised as accidents and challenges and scars that remind us we survived when we should not have. Outside their viewport, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small dramas of organic life, but somehow made warmer by the knowledge that two souls had found each other across the vast emptiness. The void swarm was coming, ancient and implacable and bent on the destruction of all living things. But for the first time since the prophecies had spoken of cosmic darkness, the galaxy had reason for hope. The bonded warrior and the chosen princess had found each other, and together they would stand against the night. Armed with human stubbornness, Cathara honor, shared consciousness, and an inexplicable but absolute certainty that some connections transcend species, prophecy, and even the heat death of the universe itself. The scar that had marked Alex as a survivor had become the symbol of something greater, not just individual resilience, but the bonds that form between souls when they recognize in each other the missing pieces of themselves. And the challenge that should have proven human worth had instead revealed that the greatest strength of any species lies not in their weapons or their technology,